Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Devin Burke, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today, and then we want to talk about what you're doing to help people get quality sleep.
Yeah, so I was born in Pennsylvania, so outside of Philadelphia, little farm town suburb, and yeah, that's where life started for me, Mike.
So did you grow up there?
I did, yeah, and I describe my growing up experience. It was very Leave It to Beaver. I was very blessed in that way,
Yeah.
but it was just it was a really nice farm suburb.
Oh,
And yeah, and even my high school was kind of like Saved by the Bell type of high school. It looked like Saved by the Bell.
I love
It
it.
was it was a great place to raise a family.
I love
And
it.
yeah, my parents, they moved out of the city. A lot of they started in the city, of course, in Philadelphia, and then said, "Hey, let's find a better place to raise the family." And so we ended up in Harleysville, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's probably a pretty small place, right?
Well, it's grown a lot. It's
Yeah.
grown a lot, now, but when we moved there, the neighborhood that we moved into was, a cul-de-sac built on a cornfield, and
Oh my gosh.
the farm, the barn structure was still on the property. So honestly, it was a great place to be
Yeah.
and to really just grow up. It was a wholesome environment for sure.
So
I'm blessed.
what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
Honestly, probably just being able to ride my bike and I would just go on these long bike rides, the bike paths, and look at all the farms, and it was really a safe place.
Yeah.
I didn't feel threatened at all. It didn't feel it was really, like I said, it was like a Leave It to Beaver town.
Yeah.
But I love just going on bike rides. I'd go on these back roads and I just ride my bike and I just kind of think about life and
Yeah.
what was going on, and that was probably my favorite, still one of my favorite things to do now is go just ride a bike. It's just
That's
something
awesome.
special about that.
That's awesome. So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Probably my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother. Yeah, she was the one, she was the one that kinda got me into health.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, and we have a big Irish Catholic family,
Mhm.
and a lot of people in my family, like a lot of families, had cancer.
Oh,
So my mom got really into health after some of her relatives got sick with cancer and other different diseases. And she really kind of like inspired me
mhm.
to start to understand health and wellness and energy and food. And so that's what got me so interested in, not necessarily led me into sleep, but first wellness in general. Just how do you live an energized life, a healthy life? And that was my mom.
That's really cool. So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
I love science.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love science. Yeah, I loved just, to me, it was kind of there was something magical about science. Just and yeah, I mean it just sparked my curiosity in I guess the natural world and how things work. And that was, again, yeah, that was an interesting thing. Um to be sitting in class and listening to the teacher. Half the class is falling asleep, but I was always really, really interested in how does this whole world that we live in, how does it work? And
Yeah.
science kind of had a little bit of an explanation as
Yeah.
to how. So
That's cool. Did you play any sports in high school?
I did. Yeah,
Which ones?
so I played football. I was as a freshman, I made the varsity football team.
Wow.
Yeah, which
What
was
position did you play?
I was wide receiver. So
I love it.
I was fast and I could catch.
Yeah,
But my
you were.
So that was fun, but I wasn't very big, and I had some big hits from some very large people, because just, skinny freshman that was fast and could catch. And I played basketball. That was
Yeah.
really the sport that I loved.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, both of those experiences were really just amazing.
That's cool. So you graduate from high school in Harleysville, right? And you decide to go to college. Where do you go to college and why?
Yeah, so I left Pennsylvania and went to Boca Raton to Florida Atlantic University.
Okay. FAU. Love it.
FAU. I'm an owl.
That's awesome, dude.
The reason I did was all my friends were going to Penn State. They were all going to state schools, and I just wanted to get out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I did a little vacation down to Florida and just palm trees. It was actually it was a basketball tournament.
Yeah.
And I remember it was in between games and I was sitting on a lounge chair by a pool and there's palm trees. And I said, man, this is pretty nice.
Yeah. This could work.
This could work.
Yeah.
This could work. So yeah, so I applied to some schools down here in Florida, Florida Atlantic. I went and visited, and it just kind of felt like wasn't too big. It was close to the beach, had beautiful campus, had the major that I wanted to study, and so I ended up in Boca Raton for college.
That's awesome. What did you major in?
Exercise physiology and health promotion. I was going to be a doctor of physical therapy.
Okay.
So I actually got into a doctoral program after graduating, um, and decided to not follow through on becoming a physical therapist, because I realized that I was more, even though I love physical therapy, I love the human body, how it works. There was something inside of me that just was telling me that's not my path.
Okay.
And I didn't know what my path was.
Yeah.
I just knew that I loved helping people and I was very interested in how the mind and the body works and
Yeah.
heals. And it was up that time that was working in a clinic, and one of the people I was working with, she was working with a health coach.
Okay.
And this was probably 16 years ago. And
Okay.
at that time, health coaching wasn't a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. It's kind of rare. It was kind of rare.
It was kind of rare. Yeah. And so she started telling me, hey, I'm working with this health coach. She looked amazing. Her skin was vibrant. She was just like full of energy. And I was, what is a health coach? And so she started to tell me, hey, this is what what I'm working on with this coach. And I said, you have to introduce me to whoever it is you're working with.
Mhm.
And this woman, she was coming to Florida to speak at this big event. And I had lunch with her, and she kind of told me, "Hey, this is what I do." And I was like, "This is a thing? People
Yeah.
pay you to help them, change their lifestyle and their diet and their health." And she's like, "Yeah." And so then I went into a year-long health coaching program, certification program.
That is
And
so cool.
yeah, it was amazing because the program was really about, not just about what feeds us, diet, but
Mhm.
about what feeds us from like a life standpoint. It
Yeah.
was more of like a life coaching certification, like looking at, well, what are you passionate about? How do you live a vibrant life? How do you connect with people? What gives you energy, with food and outside of food? And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things, that I'd never really thought about, and it kind of set me on this path for the next 10 years of studying with a lot of interesting people and going through a lot of interesting experiences to kind of get me to where I am today.
Yeah. So you end up, so you get certified. Then what happens? You end up starting to gain a clientele, that kind of thing?
Yep. Yeah. So I started a practice. I was seeing pretty much anyone that wanted, that was looking to improve their health. And then I started to attract a lot of high performing entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So I helped one person. He kind of had a network. He started to, share what the work we were doing. More entrepreneurs, business owners I started to really work with some very successful, high performing people, and we were getting great results.
Yeah.
And so I just kept getting referrals, of these types of clientele. And then, as you can imagine, a lot of these people were not sleeping well.
Yeah.
And one particular person, he was, taking sleeping medications. He wasn't sleeping. It was affecting his business. It was affecting his health. And up until this point, I had studied a lot of things, but I didn't know anything about sleep.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Hey, listen, ask your network. Is there anything that can help me sleep without having to rely on these pills? Because these pills aren't working. I feel terrible." And I said, "Well, let me look into it." And what I found was, well, medication, right? And then I found something called CBTI, which
Mhm.
stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. And I had studied a lot of different psychologies.
Mhm.
This one was particular to sleep. And so we started to experiment with some of the things that I was learning as I was studying this, got some good results with this person, and then again started getting more referrals for people that have sleeping issues.
Mhm.
And that kind of cascaded into Sleep Science Academy and being able to create a system and a process that's helped thousands of people all across the United States restore their ability to sleep naturally without
That's awesome.
pills.
It's a real issue for me. I have a tough time going to sleep, and I have a tough time staying asleep. I'm wired like an 8-day clock, is what a lot of people like to say, right? And I have a lot of energy, and I have a tough time getting my mind to go to sleep, to get to just shut off, and you know, I have a tough time getting my body to shut down and actually rest. I think there's something going on with me where I feel like I've just got too much to do, and you know what I mean? It's like the whole rest thing seems like I'm being lazy or something. So that I can tell from the look on your face that that's fairly common.
Very common.
So talk to us a little bit about the institute, and specifically if somebody like me comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm like I just outlined for you, is there a solution, and what does that look like?"
Yeah. Well, the good news is there is a solution for sure. And sleep. So one of the foundational things that I discovered is sleep is a result.
Okay.
So what we really look at, well, what's the cause? And one of the things that you just mentioned, you're aware of, it's, my mind seems like it's busy, it's racing, my body seems like it's awake. And so that is really a cause that then leads to the effect of sleep being difficult.
Okay.
So one of the things we help people do is number one is create the awareness around what is the reason why this thing that's so natural that we're born to do is a challenge.
Mhm.
Whether it's falling asleep, whether it's waking up in the middle of the night and having a difficult time falling back to sleep, that's all that is. If you're not sleeping well, all it means is there's something to learn. That
Okay.
is it. It's almost like I like to explain it as it's like your check engine light is on
Mhm.
and it say, "Hey, look under the hood. What's going on in how you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're not doing?" And so what we do over the course of 8 weeks at Sleep Science Academy is we help people create the awareness around how their thoughts and their beliefs and their behaviors affect their sleep.
Okay.
And so an example, a lot of our clients have this exact challenge you have. The first time their head hits the pillow, it's like the mind starts to go and then the body starts to go. And next thing you know, you're awake, you're up.
Mhm.
We call it it's a rest deficit. So there's a distinction between rest and sleep.
Okay.
And rest, specifically mental rest, leads to sleep. And most of us during the day, we don't have enough mental rest. We're constantly thinking, we're problem solving, we're nexting. We're going from the next thing to the
Mhm.
next thing. And you're nodding your head. Yeah. And especially entrepreneurs, especially people that are, creating things that are
Yeah.
engaged with life. It's like, woo, it's just, there's so much, right?
Yeah.
And the mind is not like a light switch. It'd be amazing if it was, if we could just literally switch off.
Mhm.
That's not how it works. It's almost like when we're caught in this nexting, it's like a balloon is blowing up. There's tension and pressure in the mind and the body. And it's not necessarily always bad to have tension and pressure. That's what allows us to get things done.
Yeah.
But if we're not letting air out of that balloon throughout the day, there's so much tension and pressure at the end of the day, it becomes difficult for our minds and our bodies to allow sleep to happen.
Gotcha.
And so even during like I tell people, a great night of sleep starts as soon as you wake up. What you do throughout your entire day makes the difference to how you're going to sleep that night.
Hmm.
And so literally just taking space in between your next thing 5 minutes, doesn't have to be long, to just allow your mind to settle, to allow your body to settle, not getting on the internet or checking text messages or doing something, literally just doing nothing, allowing kind of the mind just to just relax and rest. If you do that throughout your activities during the day, it makes a huge difference for allowing the mind just to be in a state of rest for then sleep to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. I mean, and I can see I don't give myself 5 minutes ever. Like, I don't
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like I'm literally just going nonstop all the time. Of course, I have all this to do, right? And
Yes.
so and I'm trying to do all of it yesterday,
Yes.
right? Because I never got when they were handing out patients, I missed the line, right? So I'm one of those people that's not very virtuous when it comes to patience as a virtue, you know? And so I'm always trying to cram as much as I possibly can into every single hour, every single minute, every single day,
Yes.
right? So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So when you go from task to task, you take 5 minutes. Like, perfect example. I finished my last podcast interview just the previous hour, 2 minutes before you and I started. And
Wow.
so there wasn't even a 5 minute anything, right?
Yes.
And naturally, I checked my phone, right? The whole thing.
Mhm.
My wife, by the way, is incredibly excited that we're having this conversation. She was so pumped to find out that you and I were going to be spending some time together. She
Uh,
wanted me to ask you something, and I promised her I would. She wanted me to, well, actually, she wanted me to ask you two things. Number one, um, she and a lot of her girlfriends sleep with some sort of something going on in their, like they've put earphones in and they
mhm.
sleep with something happening, something that they're listening to because their husbands snore. Okay.
Yeah.
And they've gotten themselves somewhat programmed to where they can sleep now with noise going on, even with the snoring, right? Because it sort of interrupts the deal. So, two questions. Number one, that I promised her I would ask. Number one, is it healthy for them to be listening to something all night while they're sleeping? And number two, is there a way that you suggest or you all have to address snoring? Is there a way
Yeah.
to eliminate
Yeah, so the first question is it's not ideal to be listening to something all night for your
it?
hearing. Just for your auditory health, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
The solution is really to have that conversation with how to address the snoring. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of really interesting things available, a lot of technologies available for addressing snoring specifically. And we can definitely I'm more than happy to share what some of those technologies are.
That'd be great.
And I would say often snoring is could be a sign of sleep apnea.
Yeah.
And so if you are a snorer and you also find yourself waking up or gasping for air, that is a sign that you might have sleep apnea and really important to go get a test. I would recommend an in-home test because if you go to a lab, you're gonna have to sleep in this weird room with all these things attached to you, and you're probably not gonna get any sleep anyway.
Yeah.
So they do these things where they'll send you a device that can measure if you're having stop breathing events. Snoring is a sign that could be you could have sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Um, Now there's a lot of and if you have sleep apnea, then you want to get it addressed. And there's a lot of ways to address it. It could be a mouthpiece, it could be a CPAP. For some people, actually, believe it or not, taping your mouth shut. I know it sounds crazy. It does. It sounds there's a whole there. And the first time that I did this, because I don't recommend anything that I don't try myself.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first time I walked into the bedroom with my mouth taped shut. My wife just looked at me and she just goes, "What the hell are you? What is going on?" I'm
I
like,
can I can hear it now. We've
"Yeah,
been married 30 years, okay? I can hear it now. I've been trying to do this for 30 years, and you actually taped your own mouth shut? Come on, right?
yeah, yeah." But it's a real thing, and there's real science to why that is helpful,
Yeah,
even for people that don't snore. Breathing through your nose creates more nitrous oxide in your body. It
yeah,
also acts as a filter. More nitrous oxide is a good thing.
yeah.
Viagra, funny enough, Viagra was actually created to increase nitrous oxide, and the side effect they found was, it gives men erections,
Right.
which then So, but really, if you just learn to breathe from your nose, it increases nitrous oxide, which is an amazing thing to have increased because it increases blood flow.
Gotcha.
And so that can help with snoring for sure.
Wow.
The positioning of how you sleep, if you sleep on your back, that's not ideal for snoring. Sleeping on your side would be a better position. They do make devices now that if you do find the source of your snoring is because you're on your back and you don't snore on your side, there's little things that kind of like buzz and wake you up when you're on your back.
Mhm.
There's little pillows that'll kind of position your head in a different way. So it really depends on why you're snoring.
Yeah.
And so that again is where getting a sleep test, they'd be able to kind of say, hey, you're snoring because your myoglossus, the muscle underneath your tongue, is slipping back and stopping the breathing, or maybe you have a deviated septum, or maybe you need to lose weight. That's a common reason why people snore. They have too much, weight around their neck. So there's a lot of reasons why somebody snores. And if you didn't want to do any of that, wearing earplugs would be better than wearing something that creates noise, just from an auditory health standpoint. That was a
Gotcha.
long-winded answer.
No,
So
it's great. I'm gonna share it with her. I'm probably gonna share this episode with her, just so she can hear it for herself. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
she
welcome.
really was. I mean, I'm not joking. I told her that you were coming on, and she's like, "Really? Oh my goodness! You got to ask him this. You got to ask him this." Okay,
Mm,
right? So my husbandly thing just now. So we're good. So
you're good. Good.
so let me ask you this. You've now been doing this for a decade and a half, like 16 years, it sounds like?
Yeah, yeah. I've been Sleep Science Academy for 7, but I've been supporting people with their health and wellness for about 15.
Yeah. So what's the single most important thing that you've learned in the 15 years that you've been doing this about health and about what you're doing? In other words, how you're helping people live a better life?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, that's a really challenging question because there's a lot. But
Yeah.
what's coming to mind is when you really understand your mind and how powerful your mind is, and you understand how to work with your mind, it can transform so many areas of your life,
Okay.
including your health. It's so what most people, and I was one of them, don't truly understand how our thoughts influence every single area of our life.
Okay.
And if you don't understand how powerful your thoughts are, and practice how to place awareness and how to really really focus on what's the two things that are in our control, which is what we make things mean and how we respond.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing that affects our experience, is
Okay.
people really not understanding how the mind works, and also really not understanding what's actually in our control and what's not in our control.
Okay.
And so most of the things that we focus on are actually things that are not in our control. And when we focus on things that are not in our control, we experience stress, we
Right.
experience anxiety, we experience, and that cascades into every single facet of our life, our relationships, our sleep, our health, our work performance,
Our diet.
our diet, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. So stress really is at the root of so many challenges. It's, people eat when they're stressed,
Mhm.
right? People zone out or numb out, with social media or with work. We all have this stress blueprint, is what I call it. It's how we deal with the uncomfortable sensation of pressure
Mhm.
or tension in our body. And so understanding the patterns of where do you go when you feel tense, when you feel under pressure, what are those habits, what are those thoughts? Really unpacking that and being able to see that clearly, it really just is extremely helpful, in life and in finding balance and homeostasis within any area that's out of balance, whether
Yeah.
that's your sleep, whether that's your relationship, whether that's with your, whatever it is, whatever area. So that's the thing. It's really understanding that we're not our thoughts. We have thoughts, really understanding what's in our control and what's not out of our control. These types of insights, I like to call them, are extremely powerful for helping people make change in their life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So if somebody is having a challenge, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are, if somebody's having a challenge with their sleep or a challenge with their health, how can they engage you? In other words, how can they engage your institute?
Yeah, so we you can just go to sleepscienceacademy.com and schedule a consultation. And it's really we specifically deal with people that have a challenge falling asleep or staying asleep and it's affecting their life in a big way. And either they're on medication and the medication's not working, or they don't want to have to get on a medication because they know that's a band-aid and they don't want to experience the side effects of that. But we always do an intake. We connect with people and say, hey, is this a right fit for you? Are you willing to implement these changes in how you're thinking and what you're doing? And sometimes it's a great fit and sometimes it's not. But that's why we like to have a conversation with someone, because what I care about is getting people results.
Mhm.
And one of the philosophies that I really adhere to is take what's useful from anywhere you can find it and let everything else go.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Sleep Science Academy. We've pulled from all these different psychologies and techniques and tools and technologies and just give people what's useful for them so that they can experience a different result. And for every person that we work with, it is a bit personalized, but there also is a proven path, a system that we take people through that we know gets repeated results.
Yeah. So can I ask you a couple of things that sort of are out there and people are talking about? And
Yeah.
you're the expert, so this would be a time to ask. So there's a thing about blue light and using your phone and sort of sort of best practices, I guess, where where people are and a lot of people out there are encouraging, and they're not sleep experts, by the way. They're just people that have routines and
Mhm.
they suggest certain things, right? So I read something about Jeff Bezos the other day and how he does a thing called puttering, where his first hour of every day, he doesn't look at his phone, he doesn't look at his email, he doesn't look at his text, he doesn't look at anything. He
Yep.
just putters around. He messes around with the kids. He, makes breakfast. He, does his normal morning routine, exercise, whatever. But he doesn't look at his phone for like an hour every day, first hour of every day, right? And then I've also heard of other people that won't look at their phone for 2 hours before they go to bed
Yes.
because there's something in your there's something in your mind that clues on blue light. And can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the physiology behind blue light is, so we have these cells in our eyes that trigger, let's call it the melatonin faucet. Melatonin is a
Mhm.
sleep hormone. And when there's blue light from our phone, our computer, from our TVs, from any electronic devices, even little LED lights, it doesn't allow that faucet to be fully turned on.
Okay.
Right. So the issue is, that's one of the issues. But I think the bigger issue is actually the hyperstimulation that comes from looking at our device or watching the shows that we watch. It's especially, if it's a social media site, or if you're in your work email, or if you're in your text messages, there's a certain arousal that happens when we are looking at these platforms, when we're on these platforms, when we're in our email, when we're checking our text messages too close to bedtime.
Okay.
So it's not only the impact of, hey, you're not getting that full melatonin release because of the blue light, but it's also the hyper arousal that comes along with what we're actually doing when we're on a device.
Okay.
And Jeff Bezos, I mean, what a smart man. So cortisol is highest in the morning. Cortisol is a stress hormone. That's actually what pulls us out of sleep. It's highest in the morning. And so what most people do is we kind of like go right into our day, we hit the ground running, and then we drink coffee, which is like dumping gasoline on an already hot fire. Coffee increases cortisol.
Wow.
um, and it's also a diuretic, and we lose 2 liters of water through respiration and sweat through the night. So we're already in a dehydrated state. So now here we are, cortisol's highest in the morning. We hit the ground running, alarm's going off. We grab that cup of coffee. Cortisol gets even higher, and it stays higher for the whole rest of the day. And cortisol, like all our hormones, it's like a roller coaster. They kind of fluctuate. They go up, they're released, and then they kind of be suppressed. That happens all throughout the day, but we don't want that cortisol hormone to be so heightened throughout the rest of the day. That's going to just lead to more stress, which leads to less sleep.
Okay.
So bookmarking your days, how you start your day and how you end your day, is really important if you care about getting higher quality sleep and more sleep, for sure.
So best practice in the morning, is that sort of that first hour of not looking at your phone? Is that what you would recommend?
Yeah, and the best thing you possibly could do, if you've from a physiological standpoint, is wake up, drink a glass of water to hydrate your cells with electrolytes in it, and then go outside and get sun on your skin. And if you can, put your feet on the ground. Put your feet on the ground. There's a electromagnetic charge that Earth has that most of us are completely disconnected from. And it sounds like hippie stuff. It's not. It's actually real science. You can look it up. There's a certain frequency that we're disconnected from. And if you can put your feet on the ground and get a little sun on your skin, even for 5 minutes, if you just take a walk, that would help set your circadian clock. That would help reduce, help that natural cascade of cortisol to come down. Wait an hour, then have your cup of coffee, because it's going to take about an hour for that cortisol start to dip.
Okay.
Then you can have your cup of coffee. And if you want to take, a little hack here, you can take it with L-theanine, which would help buffer the effects it has on your adrenal glands. L-theanine is amino acid, or you
Okay.
can even put some mushrooms like reishi mushroom or chaga or cordyceps. Some of these medicinal mushrooms will help balance the effect of the stress that's created on your adrenal glands. Now, these are like little lifestyle hacks,
Yeah.
but they make a big difference. And
Yeah.
if you did it for a week, you'd notice a difference in how you feel and your energy and your focus and your sleep.
That's awesome. So in the evening, what's best practice in the evening?
Yeah, I share this thing called 3-2-1 sleep. It's a little hack. Not hack, I would say strategy. So 3 hours before you want to be asleep, you want to stop eating. The reason for that is the first two 90-minute cycles is where you're getting most of your deep sleep.
Mhm.
And if our blood is rushing to our digestive tract to digest food, we're not able to get into those deeper stages of delta sleep, which happens mostly in the first two cycles of sleep. Then 2 hours before you want to be asleep, no work. This is hard for people because we like to work and we like to work, right? We're trying to just get it in. The reason why we want to stop shutting down work is because it keeps our brains active. Thinking, okay, what am I going to plan the next day? Or we need to allow that bed buffer, the time between your day and your night. There needs to be a buffer.
Yeah.
For most people, it's about 2 hours that works. And then 1 hour before bed, that's when you want to, if you really want to be disciplined, let go of electronics and do something that's relaxing. This could be reading, this could be, journaling, meditating, praying, puzzles, stretching, playing music. So for everyone, it's going to be a little bit different depending on your interest and what's available for you. But ideally, you want to let go of technology 60 minutes before bed. Most people, what they do is they watch the news in bed, which is the worst thing you possibly could do. The worst thing you possibly could do for two reasons. One, it's all negative, and all
Mhm.
night long, you're just going to be thinking about the wars and the politics and the fires and the hurricanes. It's just all negative.
Yeah.
And then two, so you're getting stimulated in that way. And then two, you're also getting that blue light, which isn't going to allow the full melatonin release, which is then not going to allow you to get into the deeper stages of sleep. So if you're going to watch the news, the best time to watch the news is actually during lunch.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because now at least you have some time to process that before you go to sleep. It's not ideal. Watching the news right before bed is literally, I could say, the worst thing you could do for your mental health as well as for your sleep health. And that's
Wow.
what most of us do. Most of us
This
do
is
it.
fascinating to me. One of the conversations my wife and I are having, and it's not an argument, it's a conversation, is that, she, in order for her to go to sleep, she has to have the TV on.
Right.
Now, it's not on the news. It's either on football or it's on Hallmark.
Well, that's much better. That's here. This is the truth. It's much better to watch Hallmark or football than the news.
Yeah.
Uh, Still not ideal, and that's actually a really common struggle for a lot of partners and spouses. One feels like they need to watch TV, whether it's the husband, the wife, or the whatever it is. Um, and yeah, and that can become a challenge. So one of the things you can do is, wear an eye mask and earplugs. It's not ideal. And if your bed partner feels like they need to watch TV, but really the best thing you could do is get the TV out of the bedroom and have your partner just watch the TV in another room.
Mhm.
And then, that's the best thing to do. Really just get the TV out of the bedroom. The bedroom is for two things. It's for sleep and it's for making love to your bed partner. That is it. It's not for watching TV. It's not for having difficult conversations. It's not for thinking about business plans, politics. You know, it's not for trying to sleep either.
Right.
It's literally for sleep and then making love to your bed partner. That is, if you just do those two things in bed, you're setting yourself up for success. If you do anything else in bed, eat, work, think, watch TV, be on your phone, it's it's a barrier for sleep to happen.
Yeah. Wow, this has been absolutely fascinating. I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Now, let me ask you a question. If somebody would like to get in contact with your academy, Sleep Science Academy, is it what's the best way? Is it the website?
Yeah, you can just go to the website, sleepscienceacademy.com, and then you can just schedule a consultation, or you can look at our blog, or there's lots of resources on YouTube as well. I do a lot of video content. Here, and this is I just want to say this, Mike, you don't actually have to change your entire life if you're looking to improve your sleep. It's really small things make a huge difference.
Yeah,
We
it
talked
sounds
about
like
some
it.
of those things. It is. And it's compounding, just like interest,
Yeah.
it's compounding. And so the little things that you do compound to actually become big things. And it's often the little things that people are doing that they're not even aware of that are the very things that keep sleep from happening.
Can I ask you a question real quick before we go? Is diet a part of your sleep? Like, is diet a part? I mean, obviously, you mentioned the 3-2-1 thing, right? So
Yes,
you don't eat 3 hours before you go to sleep. Is diet a part of what sort of quality sleep you get?
for sure. Yeah, what you eat and when you eat both impact the quality and depth of your sleep. A lot of times people are hypertensive, they're pre-diabetic and they're not aware of it. And the reason that they're waking up in the middle of the night, not the reason why they're not able to get back to sleep, the reason why they're actually waking up is because their blood sugar, because they're eating way too much sugar in their diet,
Mhm.
their blood sugar, they're going hypoglycemic. The body wakes up. If you're hypoglycemic, your body's going to wake up. And how you get hypoglycemic is that you're eating way too much sugar and your insulin is going all over the place.
Mhm.
So reducing sugar or getting your blood sugar regulated through diet and through exercise is going to help sleep
Yeah.
100%. And then when you eat, what you eat and when you eat it also makes a difference. So, in a perfect example, the two big things, caffeine and alcohol, the upper and the downer. So most people start their day with caffeine. Caffeine blocks adenosine. Adenosine is the neurochemical that builds sleep pressure. Um, that'll create sleep debt if that's not cleared out. And then alcohol, unfortunately, alcohol is a sedative, so it helps us fall asleep, but it's a diuretic and it heats up the body, so it pulls us out of sleep. And we don't
Hmm.
get into the deeper stages of REM sleep. So limiting alcohol, limiting caffeine, limiting sugar, and just making healthier lifestyle choices will absolutely impact your sleep 100% for sure. The quality and the depth of it.
I cannot thank you enough. This has been amazing. Absolutely fascinating. And thank you for answering the questions that my wife had too. That's just awesome. Devin Burke, thank you. I hope you have an amazing day. It was great meeting you.
Thank you. And I hope you have an amazing sleep, Mike. Thanks for
Thanks,
having me on.
buddy. Appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.